Computer Geek. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Most of the time I build mud mowers and I build extreme vehicles out of lawn tractors. But today we're just doing a generic winch install. You could do this install on just about any off-road vehicle. So let's get started. The winch is already installed. I have the wiring harness already set up. But what I have right now is I have it mounted in an accessible area to show you exactly how it is wired up. Later on, I'm going to tear down everything that I've done here and I'm going to wire it in a permanent under the hood location. That way, it's out of the way and not in a easily bumped location that it is now. So today we're going to be installing the Superwinch 3000. If you're interested, I have done an installation video on the Superwinch 2000. I do not recommend that winch when it comes to something this size, and I do not recommend it if you're going to be pulling in any way that is off to one side or the other. Those winches have a habit of blowing out on the spindles. I have been through 3 of them at this point, which is why it is I'm now on a 3000, because it has reinforcement bars over the top of the spindles to prevent the blowouts that the 2000 is prone to. So, as it is right now, I'm going to get the hood off, and I'm going to show you the entire wiring harness and how it's set up. There's one note I'd like you to understand before you start in on this. When you set up a 3000, you must have a positive lead that you can connect to in order to power your toggle switch for up and down. If you do not have that, it doesn't work. So whether you're running it directly from your ignition or whether you're running it directly from your battery, you will need that. So if you're removing one of these GT6000 hoods of this style, basically you undo the 2 really large flat heads on either side, you undo your wiring for your headlights, you tilt it forward and lift. Hi, so if you check in the description of the video, you'll find a link for where I bought this on Amazon. When you first open up this package, it can be really overwhelming. There's a lot of wiring and there's all kinds of parts in it. So we're going to break this install down. The first major part of the install is that you're going to have the mounting plate, you're going to have a Fairlead, and you're going to have your winch. You need to decide on a location. Now, this is not the original Fairlead. This is actually a Warren Fairlead that is made specifically for plowing on ATVs and in this case, a mud mower. This is actually the Fairlead that comes with it. As you can see, it is far less robust than the Warren Fairlead. These are about $40. I'll include a link in the description for these. I really recommend it. I'm very pleased with it. I've blown out stock Fairleads almost every single winter. This is a much more robust setup. With that being said, you're going to have your mounting plate. You're going to have to mount that down. Underneath this, there are 4 screws that come up in from the bottom, and you're going to have your Fairlead mount on the front. The Fairlead mount is adjustable up and down by about 1/2 inch, which is nice. Also, you need to plan on the fact that you've got a negative on this side and you've got a positive lead on this side. And this positive lead you got to keep away from anything, because once you put full voltage through, you might as well be holding a welding rod. So keep that blanketed away from something. I'm actually planning on putting boots over the top of this that are provided with the kit, but I wanted you guys to see everything first. So now we're going to work on checking out the wiring harness, and we're going to go from there. Hi, so at this point we can see the solenoid, and we have our harness wired in for just the toggle up and down. We don't have it set up for the remote control toggle. Now for your future needs, here is a wiring harness diagram. This is page 6 on the user's manual if you're looking for it yourself. Now the key thing here is that we have wired it without this remote handle. I don't see myself needing this on the trail anytime soon, so my wiring that I have done is just the toggle switch here. It's very easy to splice in the wiring harness in order to set up this also, but there's your reference diagram. So now let's take a look at the actual unit. Alright, the key here is that your controller circuit is on this side. That's how you'll be able to reference it in order to follow what I've done here. Now, this will be your actual ground to the battery itself. This will be your actual full positive lead. What I've done here on this GT6000 is I have actually wired it in to the top post of my starter solenoid, which goes directly to my battery. That way, at any point that my engine is running, I will have charge going through and I can still maintain being able to lift the winch slowly if necessary, if the battery starts to fail. This one here is the one that goes all the way back through and goes to your winch. This one here is the next one that goes all the way back through and goes to your winch. As you saw earlier, there is a negative and a positive side to your winch. Make sure you wire them correctly, obviously. The nice thing also is that they are marked. There is black and red dots on top. Well, as long as you're not colorblind. With that being said, the wiring harness for the push button is also marked very well. You have a green connection, a black connection, and the other thing that you will find is there is a red lead, as we discussed earlier. This needs voltage. Now, what I've done here is I have wired this into the same side as the battery. Why have I done this? It means that I can run this without having to have the engine up and running. I do not have to have the unit powered. I did this for a reason, and it's because if I bog this engine down in the water and I manage to kill it underwater, I need to be able to override it enough to get it back up out of that hole. That's the reasoning. You can wire it however you want. The directions are going to tell you to wire it with your ignition switch. Also a good idea, I just didn't want the extra wiring harness in the ignition. So, the other things that are provided in this kit is the remote, which is pretty decent quality. The buttons are supposedly water resistant. The key to this is that they say water resistant, not waterproof. So both of these have to be in an area that they will not ever go underwater. As should also the solenoid, which will eventually end up underneath the hood over here. And this is the other side of the wiring harness for remote mount in order to have your plug here. And it's quite long. Definitely a good solid 6 feet, so you could easily move it. And I may in the future decide to use this. I'm debating making the remote mount actually at the very rear of the tractor. That way I could operate the winch at a standing distance. So, there we go. In conclusion, it's really not that hard to install once you break it down into a few simple steps. Thanks guys for supporting my channel, and if this was helpful for you, or you know anybody else that's debating one of these winches, do me a favor, share the video to them on Facebook and whatever other social media you use. Have a good day, guys.